Hello and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates, joined by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein. It's a winter wonderland in Green Bay. I guess it is the most snow I've probably ever seen in my life. So we're off to a great start to Wisconsin. And why laugh?
You were bundled up today, man. We were all waiting outside the Don Hudson Center. And I'm just kind of, we're all just miserable. It's cold, right? Like snow, it's wet.
It wasn't that bad.
I did not like it. I was not in it, And I look over and I see Dominique's just bundled I've never seen this winter coat that you had. You broke that out today. I'm like, welcome to Green Bay, Dominique.
I very much look like the kid from A Christmas Story. I can't put my arms down. Yeah, exactly. That was literally the type of coat I had. So if I did fall, it would be I can't get up, so you would have had to help me up. But I
would have let you lay there. That'd be hilarious.
That's all good. Oh boy, but yeah, we made it and we're ready. And I guess from what the forecast says, this is a sneak peek of what even Monday night could look like. Expecting some snow when the Packers host the New Orleans Saints, which just that there alone is going to be fascinating to me because we always talk about how players from different states that aren't exposed to this type of weather, how they play in these certain elements. And so that just there alone, I'm interested how New Orleans will come here if it is a little chilly, a little snowy. Just how might they come out and play.
And nothing to play for, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're New Orleans, you've got this game up in Green Bay a few days before Christmas. Might snow. It's going to be cold. It's Monday night. And, oh, by the way, your season's over. Sometimes guys can rally and, you want to go up. You have this chance to, on Monday Night Football, to play this team is good and show your best. Maybe you can rally around that, but it's a lot harder when it's miserable outside and you're from New Orleans.
Yeah, and I guess on the flip side of that for the Packers, I mean, winning you're in terms of with the playoffs. So, Spoon, I guess that there alone is a lot of motivation. But I feel like some of the good things that came from Seattle, again, there's a lot to build on and work on. Just, how do you feel they, can attack and come out just heading into this game?
Their biggest problem probably is playing down to the level of who they're playing. So, once they got ahead of Seattle, it seemed like they just kind of played down to Seattle's level. And so they got to not do that against the Saints. I would say, their goal should be get out in front by a ton and hope that the final quarter you can play Malik Willis and a bunch of other guys. I mean, that would be your hope. What do the Saints have to play for? Well, their quarterback is playing for possibly the starting job, Spencer Rattler.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr probably not going to be around next year. And he's trying to prove to the Saints that, he can be their starting quarterback of the future. So, he's playing. But they're really, they got no help around him, no targets. Alvin Kamara's not going to be there. Their wide receivers are just decimated. It's, Taysom Hill's out. It's going to be tough for Spencer Rattler to do much.
Yeah, well, I guess to stick with the Saints just a little bit because – they went 2-7, fired Dennis Allen. Darren Rizzi's been the interim. They've been 3-2. They had a close game with the Commanders. Interesting, play at the end. Just has there been anything that you've seen differently when he's taken over, or has it been more of just the opponents?
Yeah, Dennis Allen wasn't a really well-liked person, in the New Orleans area. And Darren Rizzi he is the best special teams coach in the NFL. And the Packers could have had him too, but that's another story to go back. He's just one of those guys. He's like a little bit like that Campanelli. He's going to fire his team up. He's really well organized. He's going to have all the check marks made, and so I think they're a better team with him, but they're just lacking some of the talent, and it's really amazing to think about some of the talent they've gotten rid of. Alex Anzalone was with them. Zach Bond, who is playing great for the Eagles. Trey Hendrickson was with them, who's leading the league in sacks. I mean, they had, and most of those left out of Dennis, during Dennis Allen's time. So, they're kind of a shell of the team they once were.
Yeah. Just when you look at the Packers and just heading into this game, when you, I guess, are thinking about them and analyze them, and when we'll make picks later on this week, what do you look at? Obviously, you look at the whole game, but do you pay more attention on what they did in the first half or the second half when you're trying to get a grasp on kind of where this team stands?
Well, let's say what the stakes are this week. Packers win, they clinch a playoffs berth, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's. But when Matt LaFleur was asked about that this week, he immediately dismissed it. Like, that's not where his focus is. And frankly, it's not where his focus should be, because you look at the NFC right now, I mean, it's inevitable. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's not about yes, you want to win every game. That's the bottom line. But I'll make my pick now. They're beating the Saints. They're going to win this game. The question is how, right? How do they look beating this team that they should roll up on? To me, there's two areas that the Saints do well that I'm going to be really interested in. First, once upon a time, there's a defensive coordinator here named Dom Capers. And Dom Capers would always say that opposing passer rating is one of the critical stats to a defense. It's one of the key indicators to show you how good a defense is. The Saints' opposing passer rating this season is 83. It's the seventh best in the NFL. They have this season defensively made things difficult on the quarterback. On the other side, Jordan Love's been the second least sacked quarterback all season behind Josh Allen. They don't get sacked. I think in the past two games, what really stands out to me, Jordan Love's been hit 13 times and he's been sacked once. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Hit 6 times and sacked none in Seattle. Yeah. That he does not get sacked. The Saints don't get sacked either. This Saints offensive line, they're 25th in the league in allowing sacks, which is at the very bottom. They're one of the 10 fewest sacked teams in the NFL this season. So can the Packers' defensive front continue what they finally got on track doing against Seattle when they got after Geno Smith, Sam Howell, had 7 sacks, 12 quarterback hits? Can they put that together for a second straight week against a Saints offense that is not good?
Yeah. By
any stretch of the imagination, this is not a good offense, but they haven't been giving up a lot of pressures and sacks either. Can this Packers defensive front continue it?
Let's stick with that on the defensive front. How much of what they did last game, obviously a lot of it probably in part is Seahawks offensive line is not very good, but no question about it, throughout this stretch, throughout these few games, there has been a little bit more of a presence up front. Obviously the run defense has been really good, but it seems like they're doing a little bit more of getting pressure. Is there anything you've seen differently, maybe some twists and turns, or they're just doing a better job of winning their one-on-ones?
Well, it was just one game, one game that they played really well. Clearly, Edgerrin Cooper gives them a boost, someone who can get to the quarterback when they scheme to get him there. I think that, that's going to be the key. I don't think they're going to ever generate pressure with just 4. Let me take that back. I think they can generate pressure with 4, but they're going to have to do a lot of gimmicky stuff to do it. They're going to have to fake the slot blitzes, on the Edgerrin Cooper sack. Everybody in the entire Seahawks offense thought Keyshawn Nixon was coming on a blitz, and he didn't. And they slid the line, and that opened it up. So that's the kind of stuff they're going to have to do. Then later in the game, he did blitz Keyshawn Nixon from the corner, So I think that's the kind of creativity he's going to have to do week to week to get pressure. I just don't think he's going to be able to sit there with 4 guys, rush the same 4, and drop 7 all game.
Yeah, and just what more are you looking for with this defense? I mean, Quay Walker, I'm not too sure. He's kind of week to week on his status. Javon Bullard in a similar situation with those guys and those ankle injuries. Who knows? With Jaire Alexander, he has been practicing. We'll wait and see. What are you just looking for outside of the pass rush with this group?
I feel like I'd be really surprised. I won't say shocked, but I'd be really surprised if Jaire Alexander did play this week. He's missed, 7 games now in a row. Maybe a little fewer than that. He basically hasn't played since Jacksonville, late October. And, yeah, he's practicing, but what's coming next week? Minnesota. Who happens to play receiver for Minnesota? Justin Jefferson. That's when the Packers need Jaire Alexander. They don't need him this week. And that's a guy that Jaire Alexander very much wants to line up against and cover. And so the only way that I could see him playing this week is if it was on some sort of pitch count just to get a few snaps so that you don't throw him into the fire again after missing so much time. Like
what I was wondering.
If he feels 100% good to go this week, do you throw him out there for a few snaps? Maybe. But there's really no need to. So I circle, week 17 to next week against the Vikings as the most likely return date. And then I think, it's worth discussing what happens this offseason. I think it'll be very interesting to see if the Packers decide that it's time to shop Jaire Alexander or not. Because at the end of the day, just on the outside, what it looks like is you've got a team and a player that don't seem to be on the same page when it comes to how that knee is doing. A player that very clearly believes he's injured. A team that tends to come across thinking more like he's hurt, and because there's no way the Packers thought that this absence would last this long, or he would have been put on injured reserve. The fact that he was not put on injured reserve shows they expected him back within 4 games, and it's been much longer than that now. So when a situation like that happens, it can get turbulent, and I don't know that it will, but it's going to be something to watch this offseason, I think.
As far as watching Ja, and to kind of go back to the earlier point, how do you look at the situation? If he can play, do you think he should go or wait till Minnesota or just get some snaps to maybe not have some of that rust because it has been a few games?
Yeah, I would play him because you really want to find out, can he last a game? The last thing you want to do is go into Minnesota, he plays 10 snaps and he bows out again, and then you're like, oh, okay, we're really screwed. I guess I would play him because if he's healthy, he should play. It's time. He needs to play. He needs to shake off some of that rust. I also, question whether it'd be smart to, match him up with Jefferson when they come back. I think they've done a really nice job playing team defense.
Yeah.
And, Stokes and Valentine have been playing a lot better. They don't think they need to screw up what they're doing. They've been getting better at what they're doing. And just plug him in, and he's on that side, and whatever you got to do to double Justin Jefferson or whatever, whoever it is, I guess it would be MVS this week, do that. But bottom line is I would play him. I don't care what the conditions are. It's he needs to show that he can play a full game.
Yeah,
I think what's important, and this is jumping ahead. This is how enticing this Saints matchup is. But what's important is having the flexibility within your scheme to be able to do both. Like, for example, and let's just hypothetically say Justin Jefferson played for the Saints, right? So you're going in this game. If you want to say, okay, we'll play that team defense first, but then it all goes very south very quick. Can you adjust or not, right? That was the problem with Joe Barry in the past, was he only had one mode. And if that mode didn't work, there was very rarely a plan B. There was nothing else to go back to. Can you have contingencies in place? So, okay, you want to go out and just kind of play that team defense in the secondary, kind of umbrella coverage, and just if a Justin Jefferson or if an elite playmaker starts to burn you doing that, can you go to something else, or are you stuck in what's not working? That Jeff Hafley to me seems like he's the type of defensive coordinator that has the creativity, the flexibility, the versatility within his scheme and then his approach to the game that is able to do that. But that could be a test whenever he does return.
Yeah, and it's a good point talking about the secondary, too, because I'll give you a plug, Spoon. I watched the X's and O's with Leroy Butler, and you talked a lot about, when they ran cover 2 and just how they have navigated, even though you said the middle of the field has been wide open, but just the disguises with Keyshawn Nixon when he was going to blitz and when not to, and how you talked a lot about Stokes and Nixon and all those guys, just their assignments, and they've done just a nice job of that. from what you've seen, has it just been they're more healthier and just getting more reps and they're starting to play a little bit better?
Yeah,
Because the Seahawks had a really good receiving group.
I think they've been playing. They've been getting lots of opportunity, and it's been, at times it's been shaky. Valentine, he blew a big coverage early in that game that gave up a big gain. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who caught it, but it was behind him. And then he came back and made a great play on the interception. So at least they know that he's not going in the tank after he makes a bad play. Stokes, I thought, just played a really physical, good game. I thought he was in on most of the tackles he should have been. He closed a lot. He's become like a good zone corner because he can close on guys. Whether he can cover man-to-man, regularly, I don't know. But for what they've been playing with all the zone they've been playing, those two guys have fit in pretty well. And they can both play jam coverage. They'll both be up at the line of scrimmage. And Halfley is different in that way. He'll play zone coverage with his guys playing press. So, they've given them enough. I mean, you got to have Jaire Alexander would make a difference.
Yeah.
But, from a team defense standpoint, they played pretty well.
Yeah. When going back to, I was talking about with the defense and Quay Walker not being out. So, in that backer spot, would you be looking at Eric Wilson? I guess who are you kind of looking at to help with that role? Because I know you have McDuffie, Cooper, who obviously is coming off a really strong game. Would Eric Wilson kind of be a guy one of you guys would be looking at?
I'd be looking at Edgerrin Cooper first and foremost.
Yeah.
I mean, the wildest part of his season so far, he's now a 2-time NFC Defensive Player of the Week. The first Packers player to do that in a season since Clay Matthews in 2010, Spoon, I believe it was.
I can't remember what year it was.
Early in his career. First rookie Packers defender ever to do that. But that's not what's crazy. The crazy part of that, he's done all that, and he's only played 35% of the snaps this season. Yes, he missed 3 games because of a hamstring. But he's only had 1 game where he's played 40% of the snaps. And that was... 2 games, 58% last week in Seattle, and then the game before that, injury in Chicago. Only 2 times he's played 40%. So it starts there. He is a guy that has to be playing 3/4 of the snaps, and you just live with the inevitable rookie busts and mistakes because those are going to happen. He's going to miss some assignments, but he tilts the field, and sometimes you can have a young guy ascend just astronomically down the stretch to a point where it changes the ceiling. It raises the ceiling on that side of the ball. In some ways, I think Tucker Kraft's ascension late last season did that for the Packers offense. I mean, they were a different offense when Tucker Kraft came along, and that didn't come until the second half of the season. It wasn't a coincidence that Packers offense rose with him. I think there's a very real possibility that this Packers defense, which is very good, it's remarkable that this Packers defense is a legit bona fide top 10 defense. They're 10th in the league in yards allowed per game. They're 8th in scoring. This is a top 10 Packers defense. We talk about it every year, and then it never happens. This actually happened this year. They have a top 10 defense, but there's still room to grow there, and I do believe that Edgerrin Cooper getting the lion's share of snaps on the second level, that has the potential to be that kind of raising the ceiling type of effect on this defense as a whole.
Would you say that's also the key for the linebacking core? Is it just more of Cooper, or does Wilson just have to step up and kind of fill the void a little bit too if there's no Quay Walker?
Well, they're going to start Wilson. I mean, that's just what they're going to do, and that's what they've done all year. We've always wondered what it would be like for Cooper in the middle or Hopper or McDuffie, but they're just not going to do that. I don't know. They've decided that Eric Wilson is going to be their middle linebacker. So it does open some things for Cooper. He becomes then, the weak side guy, and, he's just free to roam, and they'll be able to take advantage of his talents. Now, Quay Walker, for all the criticism he gets, he's still a physical player who can run. Eric Wilson blitzes really well, but he's just not the guy you want having to plug up the holes and stopping David Montgomery or whoever it might be. But I think that's the way they'll go. And when they have Wilson and Cooper on the field, that's two really fast guys. So they can do some things with those guys, blitzing, dropping into coverage, that kind of stuff.
The question is really what happens when they go to sub-package, right? And I think in nickel, Edgerrin Cooper won't leave the field. He's going to be on the field in nickel. Then it's dime. When they do go dime, is Edgerrin Cooper your dime linebacker? Probably not. But the question to me is, should he be?
I would think he'd be. Now, they don't play dime that often,
right?
Because of, since Alexander's been gone, they haven't played dime hardly at all.
Yeah.
But he would be for me. I'd want him to stick in the middle. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm wondering what they do. Do they go, when you only have one linebacker on the field, do you go with the guy who's not a rookie, maybe a little bit more trusted, or do you go with the young buck that just unbridled athleticism?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's what I would do, but I'm curious what they will do.
Yeah. What else are you guys looking for? Is there anything offensively or more defense or special teams that you're kind of keeping an eye on heading into this game, or anything to kind of counter what the Saints might do?
Well, yeah, Rizzi is such a good special teams coach.
Yeah.
I would expect them to throw, everything at the Packers. 5 fake punt. He's not a huge fake guy, but I think we could see some things that he tries to generate, some situations where they can cause a turnover or create a big play. And so I would keep an eye on that. They'll have to be on their P's and Q's with the Saints special teams. And then, this is a game that's just crying for them to run the ball. This is, Josh Jacobs could get, 30 carries in this game. But I also think it's time that they get Brooks and Emmanuel Wilson, who's been kind of ignored, ready. Just get them available, because you never know what could happen in the playoffs or in a one-game situation. Yeah. And it wouldn't be bad to get them some more reps. So
I'd kind of lean more toward that in this week for this matchup. Get Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks involved, because ideally you don't have Josh Jacobs going 30 carries against the Saints. Yeah. Ideally you put him away without exhausting your best players, because, you want to win every week, and it's what Matt LaFleur says, 1-0 each week. He's not wrong. But the Vikings are coming, and that's going to be that's a big game, right? That's a much better opponent. So getting the depth involved this week is ideal, I think. From a special teams perspective, this is going to be our first chance really to see Daniel Whelan punt in cold weather. And he's had a huge season. He has had a great leg all season.
Not last week.
That first
not
game
last
was rough,
week.
yeah.
Not last week. But he has shown that he has a huge leg. And we all know that once it gets cold up here, big legs. This is where big legs go to die. So can he bounce back from last week, and can he punt as he's shown that he can in the cold, which he has not yet shown?
Yeah, well, the irony of that is, will they need him to in the playoffs since they're going on the road?
Right.
They're going to be probably on the West Coast or Tampa, to start. But it could be Philadelphia.
Philly.
You may have to punt there. What I was going to say about Jacobs is they should really be thinking about lessening his load the last 3 games. Okay, once they're in the playoffs, they're not getting a bye week, so they're going right from week 18 to week 19, and it wouldn't be bad to have Josh Jacobs really fresh going into the playoffs. I'd even think about sitting him. If you're clinched, I'd sit him in the Bears game. I wouldn't even play him.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, because you think about the Seahawks game, there was a 10-day rest in between, and when he got with those first 8 carries, if you will, he was he was moving well and cutting. So that's a great point.
And I was going to say maybe they go right from week 18 to week 19, because I think if you look at how things could shake, and this is getting down the road a little bit, but how they could shake out, they've got a 2-game lead on the Rams and the Seahawks. They got the tiebreaker, so it's effectively a 3-game lead. They have a 1-game lead on the Commanders, who are playing the Eagles this week, very possibly a loss. The Vikings and the 5th seed are 2 games up. if things go a certain way, Matt LaFleur very well could be going into Week 18 with a big decision to make on they might not have anything to play for against the Bears. Do you rest everybody and give yourselves a bye, Malik Willis game, Emmanuel Wilson game, or do you continue momentum, especially if they're coming off a win against the Vikings? That's brewing on the horizon.
I know what I would do, but
what would you do?
I would rest guys.
Yeah,
I would totally rest guys. There's momentum, and I'm sure he's probably gonna play guys. I don't think he would do it, but to me, it's such a damn long season with the Brazil game, with the 3 games, and they looked so much better coming off that 10-day rest, than they had. Yeah. Then they looked against Detroit. And so, I would definitely not play Jordan Love. I would rest Jacobs. Then you can pick and choose what you want to do with the rest of the guys.
Is there anything to be said for maybe just putting out there for 2 quarters and then shutting it down, which Matt LaFleur's done before?
Yeah, you could. Maybe
hope you jump out to like a 14-0
I would chain Josh Jacobs to his locker. I put handcuffs on and just say, "You're not coming out." Just let his body think how much better he would feel with 2 weeks rest. Now he's going to fight that, and Love might feel like, hey, I want to keep my rhythm going. Maybe they play really well against Minnesota, but injuries the next 2 weeks will also dictate that. Yeah. So we'll see where they're at after that. And we're assuming they're going to beat the Saints. So once they're clinched, then,
I think what also could dictate that is, to your point, how having that opportunity to see what this team looked like on 10 days. Now, 10 days is not 14 days. But still, on 10 days rest and how good they look, maybe you get a little bit more confident with this young team that rest can be a good thing for them instead of the momentum, because you just saw how good they looked with the rest.
Yeah, because also we're talking week 18 to 19, not preseason to week 1, where they didn't play in the preseason and they came out like they've had plenty of football to play up to this point. So
and they can treat it like preseason too. They could have the guys go through the warm-ups, just build up a lather and then then set them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you. Now that I think of it, that might be stupid, because I don't know if you can dress enough guys to do that. If you pick 3 or 4 guys, all of a sudden you're down to like 42 guys on your roster.
They'll get a pregame workout anyway.
A little condition.
Oh, that's
They'll
true.
be out there.
Yeah.
So
we'll have to bookmark this discussion and revisit it in maybe about a week or 2. But it's an interesting thing to think about, and I'm sure in a couple of weeks it will be something LaFleur will be.
Yeah, the Vikings game will kind of determine whether they
how well do you
or
play.
Not.
Yeah,
and there's just not a lot of interesting when it comes to this week. The Packers should win this game by 4 touchdowns. They should put up over 40 points. Yeah. This should be an absolute blowout.
They should have 7
by the
sacks
third quarter.
in this game.
Yeah.
The interior of they're going to be facing their old buddy Lucas Patrick, who's a guard for the Saints, and so if they're not just destroying them up the middle, something's wrong.
That's true. So it'll be just an interesting game for sure, just because of how will they come out. If it's anything like the first half of the Seahawks game, they should be in good shape. So it's going to be a lot. So as we wrap it up, are there any rants, anything anybody need to get off their chest, any 2 cents, anything you got to say?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put out a plea for, not a plea, but I'm going to send out a feeler for anybody in the Milwaukee area who has a 12-year-old who has played organized baseball before. I'm looking for a couple of guys to booster my team. I need to know. You can email me. My email's on my stories, or it's tom.silverstein@jrn.com. Got to be a little experience. We're kind of a travel team, not we're not the Mets. We don't have.
Well, who is?
We don't have Soto.
Although I've heard sources close to the situation that have told me, and I have these sources here, that you are basically the Steve Cohn of Milwaukee Little League baseball.
That's right.
Free, free bleacher luxury seats, family suites,
first row of the bleachers.
Yeah.
As I said to you guys earlier, I will allow you to a parent to suggest where his son can bat the order and where he should play for one game.
For one game.
Do that for one
Only
game.
one game.
Yeah, I will add perks like that. You can I'll even let you yell an instruction to your son too once in a while, you know. So I am that wheeler and dealer kind of guy.
When all things are equal on the money, it really comes down to the perks. I mean, that is what really sways a good situation for a 12-year-old to be in, or a professional athlete to be in, all the same, or not. And it sounds like you do have the perks.
The only thing I can't offer is not yelling, because I'm a yeller, and I just can't. I always apologize.
I'd like
later.
to see that.
I'm going to a game.
Yeah, you should.
I'm getting the schedule. We are going to road trip, and we are going to watch
should.
Spoon
Sometimes
We'll podcast it after.
Sometimes I get a visit from my significant other with a tap on the shoulder, like, "Cool it, dude."
We are definitely podcasting it after. And Spoon,
my gosh.
we are going to
We
be
should
tough
podcast
critics.
from there.
We are not going to go easy on you, Spoon. The managerial decisions, we are going to pick through all of them.
Oh yeah,
I know. I'll have a fire Spoon sign if they start struggling.
I write a column about it.
I was joking with LaFleur about it. We were just talking about something, and I was like, "Damn, media's on my case all the time."
That's right.
I can't stand them.
That's right.
He's in the hot seat. But, I mean, that tells you dedication. It is December.
I know.
Like a week before Christmas. There's like 5 inches of snow outside, and he's recruiting for baseball right now.
This is how it came up before we went on the podcast. Is where we're sitting here waiting as Dominique, very as he does that all the time, sets up the equipment, and on Spoon's computer, which I just happened to see, is Glendale Little League, and I'm thinking, it's snowing outside, man. Like, who's thinking about I'm barely thinking about baseball, and I'm still not over the Juan Soto thing. Like, really, that is dedication.
I loved it.
Well, if you were to talk to my good friend Todd Rosiak, he'd be like, "Oh God, 1 month till pitchers and catchers, or a little more than a month till they report." So
It comes quick.
Yeah, but we're going to follow up on this because to the credit of the view, like they email different things. Like I was getting recipes for like stuffing and dressing throughout the season. I got some recommendations when we were traveling, going to Seattle. They was talking about going to the Space Needle. So we appreciate people that like chime in with nice things. We don't always get nice things, but
I should say, did not go to the Museum of Pop in Seattle because they don't have the Pearl Jam exhibit anymore. And that's like the reason you go. So. We saw the Kurt Cobain house and saw El Corazon, the first place that Pearl Jam had their first concert when they were called Mookie Blaylock at the time. But no, we did not go to the Museum of Pop.
Yeah, and Spoon, we should have just recorded my responses because Ryan's like, it's where they played their first concert. I'm like,
yes, I was.
I'm just like, it's cool. Very cool.
He did not care at all.
I just love the scooters, the electric scooters riding through Seattle. That was
fun.
That was my jam. So I was having a lot of fun with that. So I'm glad that I found that they're in Green Bay. So this summer, not right now, this summer I'm going to be riding around town on a scooter.
Oh yeah, they're all over Milwaukee. You can go there and find them. Yeah.
You're not going to go scooting through the snow? Dashing through the snow?
I could barely walk through the snow. Why would I want to scoot?
That's kind of seem fun. I'm not going to lie.
So maybe you can. I'm not.
I might do that.
I'm going to treat it like that glass wall at Space Needle and just stay far away from it. Let's wrap this thing up because we still have to hear from Packers coach Matt LaFleur. We'll talk to some players and we'll have plenty of content obviously coming out throughout the week because you get a little bit of an extra day with this podcast because the game is on Monday night with the New Orleans Saints, and we'll just wait and see how the Packers come out in this game as they can clinch a playoff spot with the win. Thank you for checking out the Green 19 podcast. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates.